When the Yud Ches Amid Beis, we're by Tan Rabban about 20 lines down. Tan Rabban, Vizatimus Bnei Yisrael mitumasam. Amr Rabbi Yoshia. The Rebbe Shalom should warn the Bnei Yisrael from their tumah. Mikanas harl Bnei Yisrael sheyifashu min yishaseim samach levesten. This is a azhara, a lav that a man is mechuyev to separate from his wife when she's getting close to the time that she expects to become a nida. The kama, for how long when it's the vest does he have to separate from her? Amar Rabba, oina. One period, meaning either a day or a night, the day or the night that she's expected to become a nida, he has to be parish from her. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, kol she'ein parish me'ishtei samach levesta, someone who does not follow this halacha, afilu havin le'banim k'nei Aaron mason. Even if he has children who are as worthy as the children of Aaron, they're going to die. I guess they used Bnei Aaron as an example that they were B'etzem tzadikim, and they still died because they were over. T'chsev v'yizartem es Bnei Yisrael mitumasam. Torah says you should warn them from their tumah. V'adava b'nei dasa. The pasuk continues, right? V'adava b'nei dasa v'azav v'zayv v'lezachan l'kev l'isha sheyishkav im tmeya. The samachlei, and near that pasuk it says achrei mois b'nei shnei b'nei Aaron. There's shnei b'nei Aaron died in achrei mois. So even someone who has children as worthy as the sons of Aaron will also die. Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Kol haperish me'ishtei samach leves, the someone who does observe this halacha, haven lebanim scharim, will have male children. D'chsev lahavdil bein hatami u'bein hatar. There it says that a person should be mavdil bin tamei and tar. This is an example of being mavdil between tuma and tahira by separating from her when she's possibly tamei. He's being mavdil. The samachlei isha kisazriya v'yalda zachar. Afterwards, it says the pasuk talks about a woman who gives birth to a zachar. The Yeshua ben Levi Aimer having lebanim ru'iyim lahira. Not only will they be banim, they'll be banim ru'iyim lahira. That's lahavdil lahiris. The pasuk also says, "Rav lahavdil ben akash ben achal ben atam ben atar ulahiris ben Yisrael is kol achukim ashadi be'Hashem aleim biyad Moshe." So the Torah also talks about someone who's roy lahira. So that will also apply to someone who is shomer the isser of the vest. Amr Chiya bar Abba Amr Rabbi Yochanan kol hamavdil al yayin b'motzei Shabbos is having leibanim schar. Says an additional din, someone who does havdalah on Motzei Shabbos is going to have banim schar. D'chsev lahavdil bein hakodesh u'bein hachol. So he understands that pasuk lahavdil bein hakodesh l'chol. He darshans it to include havdalah as well. Uksiv hasam lahavdil bein hatamei u'bein hachol. Uksiv hasam lahavdil bein hatamei u'bein hatar. Samach la'isha kisazriya. Very good. It says l'kodesh bein hachol, and then afterwards it says tamei bein hatar, which you used for oina, and then immediately after that it says isha kisazriya. So we say not just the havdalah of being shame of the vest, but also the havdalah that the person makes on Motzei Shabbos will get the same schus. Seems like it's a very good deal. Doesn't seem that hard to make havdalah. Yeshua ben Levi, I'm Rabbanim Aruyin Lahiris, T'chsev lahavdil lahiris. Fine. Amr Vinyam by Yefes, Amr Balaza, Kol Makadish is Atzim B'Shas Tashmish. Whoever acts with tznius B'Shas Tashmish, Havali Banim Scharim, Shenema V'Skadeshtem, Yisem K'doshim. The summer person should be Yisem K'doshim, famous Ramban, K'doshim Kadosh Asmach Rabba Mutolach. The Samach Isha Kisazriya, and next to that it says she'll have banim. Okay, so we're back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah. At the end of our Mishnah, we had brought three shitas. You had the Tanakama shita. The person has to have a yediyah, betchila, and then a helam and then the Yediyah B'Seif, and then he brings the oil of a Yerid. At the end of the mission, we said, "Belazo I'm hasharetz v'nelam imenu v'shehasharetz v'nelam imenu." The pasuk says hasharetz, and then it's really a new pasuk. Then it says v'nelam. He darshans al helam sheretz chayiv ein chayiv al helam mikdash. He's only chayiv if he has a halama of his tumah, but not if he has a halama if he forgets the fact that this is the Beis Hamikdash or that it's kodesh. It's the same thing. Then we had Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva v'nelam mimenu v'hu tamei. It's forgotten for him that he's tamei. Al helam tumah chayiv. Just if he's nelam tumah, because it says v'hu tamei, then he's chayiv. Ve'ein chayiv al helam mikdash. He's not chayiv al helam mikdash. Then we have the last sheet of Rabbi Shmuel, who says in Elam and Elam Shtei Panim that he's mechuyev for halam of either tumah or helam mikdash. But the Rabbi Shmuel was different because he holds you don't need a yediyah b'tchila. That's how he was distinguished from the Tanakama. But in any case, Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Kiva are both saying the same din, but they learn it out from different things. Rabbi Lezer learns it out from Hasharetz ben Elam, that he forgot he has a halama of the tumah, but not because sharetz is a tumah. So only a halama forgetting that he's tamei makes him chayiv oil of yered. Rabbi Kiva also says only a forgetting of tumah is mechayiv oil of yered, and he learns it out from an elam v'manavu tamei. So Dr. Gemara, Dr. Gemara, my benai. What's the difference between them? In the end, they come to the same conclusion. So why are we bring it as two separate shitas? Amr Chizkiya sheretz unavela ikabenai. The difference between them will be where the person forgot that he was he forgot that he was tamei, but that which he was tamei, he didn't know whether he didn't know whether his tumah was. He said it's hard to understand exactly what the case is. He knows he touched something tamei, but he doesn't know whether he touched a sheretz or he touched an avela of a behema tahira, some stam behema. So he's not clear about which tumah made him tamei. He has to have a yediyah beforehand. Does the yediyah extend to knowing the particulars of exactly which tumah he had? For example, if he was walking along and he's about to walk into Beis Hamikdash, and his friend stops him and tells him, you're tummy, you can't go into the Beis Hamikdash, and he forgets about it and he goes into Beis Hamikdash, but he never found out whether it was a tumas nevelo or a tumas sheretz. So Eliezer says that's not a yediyah. That's not a sufficient yediyah to mechayiv him oil v'yered. Like we know, except for according to Rabbi Shmuel, we're not going to Rabbi Shmuel. They don't argue on. They don't hold like Rabbi Shmuel. They hold you do need a yediyah, and the question is what kind of yediyah you need. Rabbi Kiva Sava lo beinin adiyada. It doesn't make a difference whether he knows whether it was a nevelo or a sheretz. The kiva diyada imti ba'olam leitzarach. Since he knows that he's tamei, that's enough to know that's considered a yediyah. It doesn't make a difference whether he knows whether he's a sheret with a sheretz or nevelo. V'chein amar Ula. Ula also understood the machlokes this way: sheretz and nevelo ikebeinai. Ula Rami the Rebbe Eliezer ad Rebbe Eliezer. We can see that Ula held this way because he asked that as a kasha on Rebbe Eliezer. Umashani. Mi Amar Rebbe Eliezer being an adiyada b'sheretz imti ibn nevelo imti. Ula asks, is it true what we're saying? This, obviously, he agreed with it, that Rebbe Eliezer holds you need to know the difference of whether it was tummy, whether he was tummy with the sheretz and nevelo. From many, Amar Rebbe Eliezer, manavshah. This is talking about someone who was what was this? Yeah. Rebbe Eliezer says, someone who what was this? It was like Rashi Manavshach. Mishnah he increases Chaylev and Noisel Lefonav Achal Echad Mehem B'Shoig V'Eni Yadei Ezemen B'Shabbos Yom Kippurim Asa Malacha B'Echad Mehem V'Eni Yadei V'Ezemen Ishtei Nida V'Chayse Ime B'Beis HaShoig V'Achas Men This is talking about someone who did he did one of two things. He had chaylev and noiser. Both of them are mechuyev. They're both aser to eat, and he did one of them b'shayg, and he doesn't know which one of them. So that's the case. Whether it was chaylev or noiser, he's going to be chayiv. Shabbos chil chayiv, Yom Kippurim chil chayiv. He doesn't know if it was Shabbos, Yom Kippur, either one he'd be chayiv. Ishtani de baal chayiv, achayse baal chayiv. Shabbos chil chayiv, Yom Kippurim chil chayiv. Ishtani de baal chayiv. I'm sorry, I think I read that twice. Amalek, so that was Rabbi Yeshua's sheet. It doesn't make a difference which one he was over on. In the end, the bottom line, he was over. Amalek Rabbi Yeshua, Rei Yuaymer, I hoida alav chatas asher chatabai. Achi yoidalach b'machata.
That was Rabbi Eliezer's shita.
I'm sorry?
You mean that was Rabbi Eliezer's shita?
I'm reading weiter in the Gemara, the Bryce.
No, you said that's Rabbi Yeshua's shita, and then you said Amalek Rabbi Yeshua.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, right. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, this is what Rabbi Eliezer said, correct. So Amalei Rabbi Yeshua, Rei Yuaymer, Oy Hoida Lo Chatas Asher Chata Ba. Achi Yoidalach B'Mechata. The Torah says Asher Chata Ba. He darshans from a pasuk. In order for a person to be chayiv b'chatas for doing something b'shegig, he has to know that he was chayt in it. He has to know which one he was chayt. He has to know specifically. So we have a stira, right? Over here, Rabbi Eliezer is the Mandamar saying, as long as you know that you did something wrong, even if you don't know which one it was, you're still going to be mechuyev v'chatas. And in our case, we said he has to know whether he became tummy. In order to have the idea for an Eilav Yered, he has to know what type of tummy it was. It's not just enough to know that he was generally tummy. So Mishani, so Ula explained the stira. Hasam asher chata v'hevi yomer achmana. Chait kolshu. He says that there's a drasha by legabe lechatas that it says asher chata, that he has to bring oil of asher chata, and the pasuk continues, and then he's going to bring the behaviors karbanoi sarizim zachatam. So he says asher chata, whatever he was over on, he has to bring a carbon. Hacha michti ksiv b'chol davar tami oibed nivlas sheretz tami lamali. It says first b'chol davar tami, then it specifies specifically. The pasuk specifies oibed sheretz. Why does it have to say b'sheretz once it said b'chol davar tami? Shema mina bin nadiyadi b'sheretz imti ibn nevel imti. So that's why Rabbi Eliezer would darshan that it says over here to tell you that you have to know specifically which thing is us. Rabbi Akiva. Why did it have to say the sheretz? Heidi the boy lemichta behema v'chaya. Like we had darshaned a few blot before, Rabbi Akiva darshans from the pasuk, the fact that Torah says behema and chaya. That's how he learns the halacha that you have to have a yediyah altogether. That was crucial to his drasha. Look at the Rabbi Ksiv. Look at the Rabbi. Like Rabbi uses to darshan behema b'chaya. Ksiv nami sheretz. He also writes, the Torah also writes sheretz. Once it has to say chaya behema, it also says sheretz. K'ton de be'er b'shmol. Kol parsha shenem rav nishnis le'nishnis ela b'shvil davash nishchadish bo. Once you have a pasuk that repeats itself and it has something, it's coming to mechadish something, so it's not shver that it repeated itself.
What's the Davish and Chadish over here?
That means since the behema and chaya was needed to be in this chadish ba, so the Torah was nishnis. It repeated itself also with the what do you call it, with the sheretz. It's. I have to admit, I find this. I never knew exactly. I still don't understand exactly what it means. It sounds like kol davish and nishnish is any little davish and chadish, but it's almost telling you that you should darshan it. But the Gemara is saying it the other way around. The Gemara is saying that when the Torah repeats itself, if there's something that's nischadish with it, it's not shver that it repeated itself. So since you have something that's mechudesh from this repetition. The Gemara completed, the pasuk completed its thought. It said sheretz also because there was a benefit of saying behema and chayim. In fact, the Gemara Rabbi Eliezer, hi ba my avid. What does Rabbi Eliezer do with the pasuk that says ba? That Rabbi Akiva had darshan that it said legabi chatos. I'm sorry, no, that it says I haidal of chadasha shechata ba. I'm sorry, by oil yared. It says ashachata ba, meaning in any case, whatever kind of tum it was. So the Gemara pratla misasik. Let's come to exclude a misasik. If you remember all the way back from Shabbos, Hilchos Shabbos, and this is something that's very hard to quantify. Every time it's explained, it makes it somehow to me more confusing. But misasik is someone who wasn't intending to do the action that caused them to be over. So, for example, someone who was walking along and he did not intend to turn on a light switch. He wanted to pick up a ball, but in doing so, he flipped up a light switch. That's not a shaygig. That's a misasik. That's where he never intended to do the action of Issa. So the same thing over here. If someone who was he wasn't intending to go into the Beis Hamikdash, so he's not going to be chayiv. So this is going on chatas, right? So it says ba. The ba is in chatas. It's not talking about oil of a. So we're talking about stamazay that you won't be chayiv on a chatas if you weren't intending to do something that would be mechoyev you, right? Rashi says problem says. Let's read the Rashi since l'sasek comes up all the time. Bedavar heter ubali de iser. A misasek is someone he's trying to do something that's mutter and it came to iser. But he wasn't intending to do this actual thing. He was trying to, it's to cut something that's already cut. It means he had a piece of celery and he wanted to cut a celery, which you're allowed to do, but he didn't realize that the celery was attached to the ground. So he wasn't intending to do the maisa of tlisha. Very strange case. He says his wife and his sister were both in the bed with him, and he thought that it's not that he thought he was being born his wife, and his wife moved away, and instead it was his sister. The Ezu Chayiv, what would be Chayiv? Niskaven lachtoich kasaver talush b'nim semechuber. He wanted to cut something, and he thought it was talush, and it turns out it was attached. That means there were two pieces of celery, and he was intending to cut the celery that was not attached to the ground. That's misasik, because he never intended to cut the one that was attached. But if he wanted to attach someone, I said it wrong before. If he wanted to cut something that was attached, that this piece of celery, he didn't realize it was attached, that's not misasik, because then he wasn't intending to do the maisa that he did. If he thought the day was chayil, or he thought this malacha is mutter, all these are going to be shaygim, they're not misasik. As long as he was intending to do what he did, but he thought for some reason it wasn't a problem. He was ba'an achaisai, and he was intending to be mechaver ba'an achaisai, but he thought it was his wife, as opposed to the case where he was trying to be ba'an his wife, but it somehow ended up on his sister. I don't think most wives are going to accept this.
The first case of Talshim Chaver, can you explain to me again the difference between the Patra case and the Chayiv case?
The case of Misasik, we'll start with the case of Misasik, is he intends that there's two pieces of celery, one is attached to the ground and one's not, and he tries to cut the one that's not attached to the ground, and instead, by mistake, he hits the wrong, not the one he had intended to hit. He doesn't hit his target. So he was never intending to do that maisa of hitting this thing that he's not allowed to hit. But if there was one piece of celery and he thought it wasn't attached and it really was, so he was intending to cut that celery, that's not misasik. That's a shaygig that he'll bring a chatas for.
So the Masasik would be if he goes into the Beis Hamikdash and he intended to go into a wedding hall instead.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, I mistook. I thought that when I first started, as I was saying, we're talking about the Gabi the Oil of a Yard. We're really talking about a general din of chatas. This ba is talking about chatas, but l'chayra would be true. You could theoretically find a place of the Beis Hamikdash where he thought, yeah, something like that. He thought he meant to go into a wedding hall, and the wedding hall was next door to the Beis Hamikdash, and he didn't go into the place he intended to go into. But if he thought that the Beis Hamikdash was a wedding hall, that would not be misasik. That would be a shaking, because he intended to do the thing that he did. It turned out it was asur as opposed to mutter. It's a hard concept to keep fixed in your mind, but that's what it is. Every time I come onto it, I have to review it in my head. Okay. And finally, after all that, he says no. All this stuff about whether he had a yediyah of exactly which tumah, it's all not true. The din to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva is just how they learn out this din that the halama has to be in the tumah and not in the yediyah. Rav Sheshes also said that it's only a question of where you darshan from. The Rav Sheshes machlev the Rabbi Eliezer, the Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Eliezer. When he would say this over, he would say it over either one of them, since he said there was no halachic difference between them. It didn't. He would say this is Rabbi Eliezer shita, is Rabbi Akiva shita, since halachically they both hold the same thing. Boy minei Rava Mirav Nachman. Helam zeh v'zeh biyadoi mahu. That what happened if he doesn't know, right? So again, Rabbi Yishma, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Eliezer both hold that a person, his yediyas hatuma has to be legabe the tuma and not about the mikdash. They learn that from different psukim, and it also, even if you have the chiluk of the way we originally, it doesn't make a difference for this question. The point is that you have to have a helam legabe the tuma and not legabe mikdash. What if a person, in addition to not knowing about that he was tamei, he also didn't know that this was the mikdash, or it could be the same thing if he didn't know about the kodesh. So he had both of these things. Mao. Amalei, hare helam tum biyadei, b'chayev. He said, what's your question? According to both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, you have to have a helam tumah. This person did not know he was tamei, so he should be mechayev in his oila b'yared. The Gemara is declaring that maybe, according to these Manda Amrim, it's not just that Helam Tumah is the only thing that makes you Chayiv and Oila V'Yered, but also if you have a Helam Mikdash, since Helam Mikdash is not going to make you Chayiv, the fact that you didn't know was the Beis HaMikdash, maybe that takes away that from the Oila V'Yered. That means it's not just the absence that the Torah is telling you the proper halam to be mechayev oila v'yared is tumah, but the Torah also tells you that halam mikdash does not make you mechayev and oila v'yared. So now, maybe if you don't know that the mikdash is tamei, that this is the Beis HaMikdash, you're missing a component that you need here in order to be mechayev oila v'yared. So if he has that second halam, that doesn't make him chayev and oila v'yared. Maybe that makes it that he's not chayev and oila v'yared. Amar Ravashi Chazina, and I'm gonna be makdim that this. If you understand this Gemara, you'll find it very puzzling. Amar Ravashi Chazina imi tuma kaparish hare helam tuma biyade v'chayev imi mikdash kaparish hare helam mikdash biyade upater. He says, well, you know what? It's going to depend on which thing it was that what caused the helam. We're going to look at what was the actual helam here. Meaning, what did he last forget before he went to the Beis HaMikdash? If he's just now he's now forgetting. He goes into the Beis Hamikdash and he says, I'm not Tomei, so I could walk into the Beis Hamikdash, and now so I could go in here. Then he's going to be a Helam Tuma, and he's going to be Chayiv Eilav. But if he goes in saying, I can walk in here, this is just a wedding hall, it's not the Beis Hamikdash, then he's going to be Potter. Amalei Ravina Lavashi, Plum Parish Mikdash, Elam Mishum Tuma, Plum Parish Mituma, Elam Mishum Mikdash. He says, what do you mean? If the fact that the person doesn't know one of these two things, he has to not know both of them. That means he has no. What is he saying? I'm going away from the Beis Hamikdash because I'm going to go into the Beis Hamikdash because I know I'm Tameh. Well, if I don't realize I'm Tameh. Well, if you're not going into the Beis Hamikdash, it wouldn't make a difference whether you're Tameh or not. So you need both elements in order to be Mechayiv Tumah. So it's irrelevant which one he said last before he walked in. You have to know both. Ella, the Gemara concludes, Ella. So he says you need both of them in order to be mechoyev for the both things are necessary in order for him to go into the Beis Hamikdash, and he doesn't have since both of them are important, and he doesn't know that it's the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, since that is not knowing about the Beis Hamikdash is not mechuyev in the Eilav Yared, that patas him from the Eilav Yared, since both factors are necessary for his mistake. Okay, this is we'll start this Gemara. We're not going to finish it. It's a very classic Shmaitza type of Gemara. Tana Rabban, Shnei Shvilin, Echad Tamei ve'Echad Tar. There are two paths. One, there's some kind of tum on it, and the other one doesn't have. V'halach Berishin, he went on the first one, v'loy nichnas. But after he went on that path, he didn't go into the Beis Hamikdash. But then he went b'sheni. Then he went on the second path, and then he went into the Beis Hamikdash. So before he came into the Beis Hamikdash, he had gone over both paths. One of them certainly has tumah, so he certainly is tameh. Chayiv. He's going to be chayiv for going into the Beis. He's going to be chayiv chatas for going into the Beis Hamikdash b'shayg. We're talking about where he did this. He didn't realize that he was tameh. So, Zak the Gemara, halach berishin v'nechnes. But what about a second case? He went on one of the two paths, so he possibly is tameh, and then he went into the Beis Hamikdash. Now he's not going to bring a chatas for that because it's only a possible tumah, and you don't bring a carbon for a suffix. Hiza, but after he went to the Beis Hamikdash, he spritzed the dam of the paraduma, v'shana, and he did it twice. You have to do twice on the third day and on the seventh day. V'taval, and he did his tefillah, so he's perfectly tar from any possible tumah that he might have had. V'ach kachalach b'sheni. Then afterwards he went into the second, on the second path. So one of these two times he became tameh, but we don't know which one. V'nichnas, and then he went into the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv. In that case, he's also going to be chayiv because he certainly, either in the first time he went in or the second time he went in, he was tameh. Rav Shimon Paiter. Rav Shimon says he's going to be pater on this case. Rav Shimon will hold that this is chaluk, because even though he knows that one of the two times he was tameh, he did not have a full yediyah in either time that he certainly was tameh in either one of them. Because so you need to have a full-fledged, even though we know that at some point he went in, either one of the times that he went into the Beis Hamikdash, did he know for sure he was tameh. So this is only a mixus yediyah.
Isn't this the case of Osham Tolui?
Osham Tolui is, we're going to talk later on about Osham Tolui. And Osham Tolui is where a person was Iver, and he's not sure afterwards if he was Iver. But over here, in both cases, we know he for sure was Iver. So you can't bring an Asham Tali when you for sure were Tameh when you went in.
But when he goes in the first path, that's when he's not sure if it was over.
You're saying each one individually should be on its own Asham Tali.
Correct.
It seems like we're looking at it like it's an alternative. Either you bring a Chatas or an Asham Tali. I don't think you could bring both. So you're saying if you hold your potter, maybe you should bring an Asham Tali. That's a good point. I'm not sure. Well, anyway, you wouldn't bring an Asham Tali here because we're talking really about. I'm talking about a Chatas, but it's incorrect. What we're really talking about here is a Oila V'Yared, and there's no Asham Tali on something that would be an Oila V'Yared. So this, yeah. So we're not talking about Asham Tali, right? We said Asham Tali is only on something that you would otherwise bring a Chatas. We're talking about someone going into the Beis Hamikdash B'Tumah or eating Kachrim B'Tumah, and that's Oila V'Yared. So you can't bring an Asham Tali on something that you would be chayiv in Oila V'Yared if you did it on purpose, if you did it b'shaygi. Yeah. So again, so in the second case, Rav Shimon disagrees, and he says you'll be potter since each time there was no yediyah, since each yediyah was besafek. He didn't know for sure he was tamid before he went in, so that's not going to be enough to make him chayiv. Zechar is a good taina. Rav Shimon has a good taina. He didn't have a yediyah. The yediyah means the knowing, and he didn't know before he went in either time. Rav Shimon ben Yehuda paiter b'kulam mishum Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon ben Yehuda has a different sheet of what it's machlekes tanoim of what Rav Shimon held. He says Rav Shimon doesn't only argue in the second case; he'll argue even in the first case, where he went on one path, and then he went on the second path, and then went into the Beis Hamikdash. So he certainly was tamei, and he knows for sure that he was tamei. He'll stay. He'll still say Yepotter. So Gemara immediately asks, "B'kulan v'afil b'kamaisa, b'manav shach tamehu." How could that be? Amarava hachmaiskin gan shahalach b'rishon u'b'shah shahalach b'sheni shachach shahalach b'rishon. We're talking about where he had forgotten by the time he went into the second path that he had gone in the first path. The Havila mixes yediyah. At each time, he never had a full yediyah. That means he had a yediyah that he went into the first path at the time he went on it, and he knew it was possibly tamei. But then, by the time he went to the second path, he had forgotten that he had gone on it. So at no point was he aware that he was for sure tamei. Tanakama savar amina mixes yediyah kachol yediyah. Rav Shimon savar le'amin mixes yediyah kachol yediyah. Then halach berisha v'nichnas hiza v'shana v'tava v'chaza v'halach v'sheni v'nichnas v'chayiv. Shimon paita v'amai. We're gonna okay v'amai chayiv safek yediyahu. Why would these Tanakama say in the second case that Yechayiv? L'chayr Shimon has a good taina that at no point each point it's only a safek yediyah. There was no yediyah at any point that was for either the first time he went in or the second time. He did not have a yediyah for either one that he's chayiv. He says no. Rabbi Yochanan says that we treat a safek yediyah like a yediyah. That means that we're gonna. Okay, well, we'll see in a second. Reish Lakish holds it's going like Rabbi Yishmael. It says you don't need a yediyah altogether. So that's his explanation. So and Rabbi Yochanan holds we're gonna learn in a minute whether he says from a pasuk that we say even though it's only a safek yediyah, we're gonna treat it as if it's a vada yediyah. Okay, we're gonna stop over here and we're gonna go back into Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish.
Thank you.
Shkoyach.
Yes, correct.
Take care.